Hey, this is Max. Welcome back to Forza Horizon 5. I'm here with some drag setups I've been messing with, and cars that I just like messing around with on the drag strip. So what I've learned about Forza Horizon's drag racing versus CSR2, which I used to play a lot, is that it has a lot more nuances, and the tuning and everything's a lot different. But one of the key things you have to understand about this is in open racing, like what I'm doing with other players and listening for horns, like now, okay, you have the very realistic problem of the horns and people jumping or you jumping and lag and other things. So these are not really realistic drag racing in the sense that there's no light counting down, there's no red lighting, so people who jump just look like they had a good reaction. All these factor into your car being competitive or not. So the other second issue is that in Forza, your tire temperatures are constantly changing. Now, I'm going to do a full test eventually of a superheated tire versus a cool tire for launch grip, just to really get a feel for it. But as you sit at the line like this, your tires are constantly cooling. And as it's cooling, your tune is being slowly and surely affected when you launch. Right? Because if your tires are not going to have the same level of grip when it has different temperatures, you're not going to get the same launch each time, and that affects whether the car feels right or doesn't feel right. Another thing is, if you look at the lanes that I'm looking at here, the center lanes seem to grip a little better than the outer lanes for whatever reason. Now, that is a plus and a minus, because for some cars that pull major wheelies, for example, if you launch in the center lane, you may launch with such a wheelie that you lose control of the car. You're almost better off in the outer lane. And then vice versa, some cars that are more slippery, like this one, the outer lane you may spin more, whereas the center lane you may get a hair more grip. Also, each end of the track grips differently. So for some of my tunes, I find that on this side of the track, the starting line, so to speak, you can launch it and there will be no issue. But on the other end of the track, depending on how far you are from the end of the track, there will be completely different level of grip. So cars that normally pull wheelie would instead spin its tire, or cars that normally would spin its tire would instead pull wheelie. So it's kind of iffy. Now, again, this is in combination with your tire temperature, because if you just ran down one direction of the track with only 15 psi on your rear tires, which most drag tunes are, your tires are going to be heated up a lot, and you may actually have some grip issues. Remember, in the racing, if you put the air pressure too low, you start to lose grip after a while. So the reverse concept is what most people rely on here in drag racing, because they think that, look, low pressure, high grip for the launch. Okay, fair enough. But once you run to the other end of the track, your tires are now heated up. You may not have the same grip. So you may want to sit there for at least 20-30 seconds to cool the tire a little. Or you have to think maybe the burnout is good for it. I don't know. I mean, this is stuff that a lot of other drag racers are throwing around as gospel. But I don't think anybody's actually tested this extensively. What I do know is that with the same exact tune, depending on tire temperature, depending on which lane I'm in, depending on which part of the track I'm in, reacts completely different. So that's something to think about. Some of these cars, most of these cars that I tune with manual and full RPM launch are using all-wheel drive. You certainly can tune a lot of these with rear-wheel drive, okay? But I can tell you, without manual with clutch and without the controlled launch controlled launch, a lot of these full RPM launch cars, the supercars don't have a wide enough rear tire to control the launch well, or you're going to have a really long first gear, which may or may not get you off the line well. So the all-wheel drive generally will be quicker by 2-3-10 all the way down the track. Now, does that mean that you should always rely on the all-wheel drive? Probably not. Some of the cars actually do very well with rear-wheel drive. Some cars are a complete wash between the all-wheel and rear-wheel drive. but that's up to you to tune and find out. I mean, if you're just doing off-the-shelf tunes from other players, you can pretty much bet that most of the all-wheel drive tunes are a little bit faster than the equivalent rear-wheel drive tunes. Unless you got, again, the 4K RPM launch, then that could compensate for it a lot. Because the other thing to note is when you test drive these, for example, in the Horizon Drag event, the computer launches it for you, and they launch it at different RPM. What's interesting about that, too, is the manual trans Horizon Drag strip launch and the manual with clutch trans Horizon strip launch happens at different RPMs, because I can feel the difference. One will spin more coming off the line, particularly the regular manual trans versus the one with the clutch. I don't know why, but all these inconsistencies affect how the car responds to how you launch it and how you drive it, but also affects how you would tune it. So it makes tuning for drag racing a lot more interesting than I thought it would be, because I thought, hey, you know, most of these guys are putting out manual with clutch drag tunes with pretty standard formats. The key being the final drive ratios being set up properly to maximize the power and drop the RPM in each gear back into the power band. That's the easy stuff. A lot of the suspension tuning is just to get all four tires or all the rear tires on the ground the way you want it to. Those are the easy ones. But all these different changing factors of tire temperature, launch RPMs, and other nuances does affect how these tunes play out when you actually drive them. Sometimes from day to day I find I have to change the tune a little bit, because what worked great the night before, the next night on the same track works somehow differently. So it's a video game. Ultimately, these things are impacted. And also during the wet season, obviously when the ground's wet, completely different grip. That's normal. I mean, that makes sense. But in the dry, though, it looks like, again, different lanes, different position, different tire temperature situation all affects it. So here's a International. This is a fun SUV to drag race because it's pretty quick. It's not going to outrun a Supra if the Supra is even set up semi-decent, but it'll outrun some other slower cars, and I'm pretty sure it's going to give that Audi a run for its money. So these are the kind of cars that I've been messing with, because I do have some fun with these. This one, again, is quicker all-wheel drive, but it can work pretty well with rear-wheel drive as well. Okay, so let's see. Yep, little hop there. Okay, that Audi jumped out of the hole really good. But again, from a top-end standpoint, you know, either he missed the shift or his car just doesn't have the top end for whatever reason. But yeah, that thing jumped out really well in the beginning. But it goes back to reaction, right? Because we don't have lights. We're going off of somebody's horn. Now, a lot of people anticipate the horn or internet lag, and what you're hearing might actually be a millisecond or two behind what they're hearing, and that's where they're taking off before you even starting. So these are all things that affect these drag races. So I wouldn't take them too seriously. You know, it's more drag racing in this game is fun, but not necessarily going to be accurate or represent you know, the reality of how your car is performing. Okay, DeLorean's a great car, lots of fun. Traps a lot like the Supra, and this is a rear-wheel drive setup on this particular car. I can put it to all-wheel drive; it'll be a little bit faster, but for this particular one, I'm actually okay with rear-wheel drive. So anyway, yeah, so that's what I've been doing. I've been doing drag racing, tuning for drag racing, just having fun, and I will continue to do so because I'm actually enjoying this in Forza. There are cheating, there are other issues, but whatever. For the most part, I can spend the night lining up with people, win, lose, or draw, have some fun, and that's what's keeping me entertained tuning in Forza. In any case, thank you for watching this video. Feel free to comment, let me know your thoughts. And if you like the video, leave a like. You like the channel, subscribe. I'm going to start putting more specific tunes out in my videos. And as always, thank you for watching my videos. I'll catch you next time.